fever with lymphadenopathy, but sometimes actually this very common thing become uncommon for diagnosis. So to make some interesting, I have kept a case scenario. We will start with one case. We had a 15-year-old male boy, Master K from Capital Haryana. He admitted in medicine department for almost 1 month, and attending complaint was bilateral neck swelling for 2 months and fever for 2 months. In history of present illness, there was multiple swelling in the neck, initially noted by mother on the left side. To start with, the swelling was of peanut size and then increased to nearly thumb size. Then later involved the right side of neck also. It was painless, not associated with any itching, redness or discharge. There was multiple swelling also noted in the axilla and inguinal region, but they were just palpable. So fever, it was intermittent. There was no diurnal or seasonal variation. It was around 100 knot Fahrenheit. Then raised up to 106 Fahrenheit, associated with chills and rigor, relieved with oral medication. There was also rash on face, trunk, limbs, maculopapular, red colored, itchy, colored in 4 to 5 days. He also complained of bilateral ear discharge with redness and swelling of pinna with involvement of the lobules. History of the similar episode of ear pain for 2 years during winter months and of the sun exposure that subsided by itself in the few days. There was no history of persistent headache, neck pain, ear discharge, nasal obstruction. There was no history of cough, expectoration, hemoptysis. There was no history of any abdominal pain, hematemesis, melena, jaundice. No history of any dysuria, skin and soft tissue infection. No history of any joint pain, Raynaud syndrome, Zika symptoms, any proximal muscle weakness. There is no history of any bleeding manifestation, no focal neurological deficit, no history of travel, any drugs or any sexual exposure in the recent past. In past history, that was unremarkable, no diabetes, tuberculosis, epilepsy, asthma, developmental milestone was normal. In the family history, both mother and father had pulmonary tuberculosis, respectively 20 and 15 years back, and both took the ATT in the complete course. In personal history, was vegetarian in diet, appetite decreased, bowel and bladder was regular, no history of smoking or alcohol, no history of any addiction. In general examination, he was conscious, alert, cooperative, vital was stable, having fever at admission, BMI was slightly lower side, height and weight was normal for age. There was no pallor, icterus, cyanosis, clubbing or pedal edema. Gravity was normal, and there was associated erythematous schema, bilateral. To start with, it was the left side, then come to the right side also, and tended to the touch. In lymph node examination, there was bilateral, subcentrimetric, cervical, submandibular, periauricular, supraclavicular node, well defined, firm, smooth, margin was normal, mobile and mildly tender. There was palpable axillary and inguinal node also, but not significantly enlarged. In systemic examination, respiratory system was normal, cardiovascular and CNS was perfectly normal. So, differential diagnosis, what it could be? It could be viral because patient is having very high grade fever for last 2 months, associated with lymphadenopathy. For viral etiology can be infectious mononucleus, herpes virus, maybe HIV infection, maybe cytomegalovirus, maybe associated with Epstein-Barr virus. If we go for bacterial, it could be very common tuberculosis, maybe enteric fever with generalized lymphadenopathy, syphilis, staphylococcal or streptococcal skin infection. In malignancy, the most common could be lymphoma, leukemia or any metastatic cancer. In autoimmune disease, SLE can present like this with fever, prolonged fever and lymphadenopathy. Then rheumatoid arthritis, especially juvenile onset rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren syndrome, drug toxicity like phenytoin for any seizure or etc. taken, then it can present like cervical lymphadenopathy and fever also. Lipid storage disease in childhood like Gaucher's disease. So, for diagnosis, we done a routine lab test after admission, and complete blood count was persistently showing leukopenia, otherwise it was normal. Peripheral blood smear showing normocytic, normochromic anemia, renal and liver function was normal. LDH was mildly raised. ECG was perfectly normal. X-ray was normal. USG abdomen was done. spleen diameter was also normal. Then 2D echo was done to see any chances of infective endocarditis, any hidden abscess over the valve area, but it was perfectly normal except tribal MRO GR. Then course and management. This 15-year-old boy evaluated for fever and cervical lymphadenopathy in some local hospital during the month of April. And where FNAC was done, that showed reactive lymphoid hyperplasia. So he was treated with oral medication, oral antibiotics, but there was no relief. So next he consented to the ENT OPD in view of also pain in the pinna and redness over the pinna with cervical lymphadenopathy. So they also done repeat FNAC, and that FNAC also showed reactive lymphoid hyperplasia. AFB was negative. So again they treated the patient with oral antibiotics. There was no improvement. Then he landed up in the emergency OPD with very high grade fever up to 106 degree Fahrenheit, and along with that neck swelling and swelling over the bilateral auricular pinna. So workup for tropical infection was done in view of prolonged high grade fever associated with chills and trichere and cervical lymphadenopathy. So IgM for leptospirosis was negative, malaria antigen was negative, IgM for dengue was negative, IgM for scab typhus was negative, Vidal test was negative. Then due to high grade fever and serum procalcitonin at the admission was slightly raised, so we sent a repeated blood culture, but they all blood culture made to sterile. Along with slight sputum production was there, so gram staining and culture sensitivity of all the sputum sample was negative, AFP was negative. So in view of the history of exposure to cattle and consumption of the unpasteurized milk product, he was tested for Brucella antibody. The Brucella antibody came positive and he was started on the doxycycline and rifampicin in the recommended dosage, but fever was still persistent. So first of all we thought it could be Brucella, but even after giving adequate antibiotic like doxycycline and rifampicin, still the fever was coming. So in view of all most probable diagnosis negative and still getting high grade fever and lymphadenopathy, we suspected the possibility of HLH, hemophagocytic lymphocytic histiocytosis. So for to rule out HLH, we also done some viral etiology like cytomegalovirus, it was negative, routine triple H was negative, Epstein-Barr virus was positive because it was sent earlier. So in view of Epstein-Barr virus serology positive and having the lymphadenopathy, we evaluated for HLH. So triglyceride was normal because HLH 2004 criteria, there should be 5 criteria satisfying to diagnose. So one of these are raised triglyceride was normal, ferritin was slightly raised, but fibrosin level was still normal. So we rule out the HLH. So there was history of skin rash with involvement of the bilateral ear auricles, pinna and photosensitivity, and history of oral ulcer. He was investigated for connective tissue disorder like SLE, rheumatoid arthritis, but we couldn't found any evidence of this connective tissue disorder. There was, as I discussed, there was high LDH, enlarged lymph node, loss of weight, loss of appetite, could be possibly lymphoma. So we done the CCT neck and chest along with abdomen. So it was also inconclusive because CCT chest neck showed only cervical lymphadenopathy and this mediastinal lymphadenopathy. Again, FNAC was repeated. It also showed reactive lymphoid hyperplasia along with AFB was negative. So in view of CCT chest abdomen showing inconclusive report in the form of only lymphadenopathy, PET scan was planned along with the excisional lymph node biopsy. So PET scan showed this uptake in the nasal cartilage, bilateral ear auricles, and this lymph node in the region of cervical submandibular. So PET scan was consistent with the relapsing polygonadritis because patient also complained 2 years back of the similar feature with pain and swelling of both pinna. But relapsing polygonadritis generally manifest with this pain and swelling of the cartilage but no so much lymphadenopathy is there. So along with we got the report of excisional lymph node biopsy meanwhile, and the lymph node biopsy showed this necrotic lymph node with the surrounding by the multiple histiocytes, that is the consistent with the Kikuchi-Fujimoto disease, also known as histiocytosis, necrotizing lymphadenitis. It's actually very common in the Korean ethnic race, but still rare in our population. But still, we are looking some case, because generally when we evaluate this cervical lymphadenopathy, we just go for FNAC that coming the negative or we showing the reactive hyperplasia. We treat patient with antibiotic and then we send the patient home. So we miss sometimes this diagnosis. Along with this necrotizing field in the lymph node, along with the histiocytes, there was the CD68 marker was positive. That is the immunohistochemistry diagnosis, because SLE lymphadenitis will also present like this similar fashion. There is a necrosis in the lymph node along with the multinucleate gene cell, but the main point is there is a neutrophilic infiltration in the SLE, but in this there is no neutrophil, only histiocyte along with CD8 lymphocytes, and this macrophage histiocytes was positive for CD68 and myeloperoxidase antigen. He was started on the bisolone 0.5 mg per kg body weight. He became afebrile, decrease in the size of lymph node, and patient was discharged in a hemodynamically stable condition. So patient had a significant improvement with regression of the axillary and inguinal lymph node, and see this repeat PET scan was done after 3 months. It was the nasal cartilage taking the contrast, but here after treated with steroid, the cartilage become fine. Also this auricle pinna, it was taking contrast previously, it become fine. Lymph node also regress in size. So our final diagnosis was Kikuchi-Fujimoto disease, relapsing polychondritis overlap. So what will I learn? Approach to fever with lymphadenopathy. What is Kikuchi lymphadenitis and Kikuchi's association with other connective tissue and autoimmune disorders. So in fever with lymphadenopathy, actually detailed history is very important. The age of the patient, time of presentation, duration of the symptoms, and what are the underlying other diseases. History of exposure to animals, like we discussed, brucella can present like this. Ingestion of the certain drug, and we discuss phenytoin, allopurinol, they can present like this. Risky behavior like viral etiology, and history of recurrent infection and immunodeficiency. History of environmental exposure to tobacco, alcohol, and ultraviolet radiation. Could be the lymphoma. Family history of malignant disorder is very important. And recent travel to an endemic area or exposure to the infected patient with tuberculosis. History of connective tissue disorders, because fever and lymphadenopathy is very common in SLE, rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's syndrome, and history of B symptoms like fever, weight loss, and drenching night sweats. For diagnosis, as we discussed, it could be viral like mononucleosis, herpes virus, Coxsackie, cytomegalo, HIV. Bacterial, it could be Streptococcus malignancy, can be Hodgkin lymphoma, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, maybe acute leukemia. If generalized lymphadenopathy is there, it could be autoimmune disorders like SLE, RA, Sjogren's syndrome, and sarcoidosis. Drug reaction like phenytoin, allopurinol, atenolol, it can cause lipid storage disease like Gaucher disease and Niemann-Pick disease. So Kikuchi disease is also called Kikuchi-Fujimoto disease or histiocytic necrotizing lymphadenitis, originally described in a young woman, and is a rare benign condition of unknown cause and usually present with cervical lymphadenopathy and fever. What is pathogenesis? There is an immune response of the T cell and histiocyte to the infectious agent. Like we show in this patient, Epstein-Barr virus was positive, cirrhosis was positive, brucella cirrhosis was positive. So these infectious agents will trigger the T cell, CD8 T cell, and they act against, and proliferation will be there. So there will be lymph node enlargement and necrosis and histiocyte infiltration. The histiocyte acts as the enhancer. In the acute phase of illness, we will get the raised interferon gamma and interleukin 6. We got the serology positive, herpes virus 6 and 8, HIV, parvovirus B19, paramyxovirus, parainfluenza, toxoplasma, brucella. All these can be the inciting factor. So this is the paper published in American Journal of Clinical Pathology showing virus infection in patient with histiocytic necrotizing lymphadenopathitis in Taiwan. In this patient presented with cervical lymphadenopathy and fever, and there was serology was positive for Epstein-Barr virus, STLV virus and parvovirus B19. Again, this paper was published and there was a brucella. So this Kikuchi lymphadenitis having the three phases. First, proliferative phase, there is a paracortical expansion of the lymph node, then histiocyte will infiltrate, then plasmacyte or dendritic cell, and there will be the apoptotic in the nearby cells, and they will be seen in the histopathology as the nuclear debris. Then necrotizing stage along with proliferative they will progress. So same as the proliferative, and there will be necrosis. In necrosis, there won't be any neutrophil. This is the main histological differentiation from the SLE lymphadenitis. So in next stage, xanthomatosis stage, there will be forming histiocytes, and if we will go for immunohistochemistry, there will be CD68 positive. And epidemiology, there is a female preponderance. In multiple series, it was 1:4, 1:1.6, 1:1.2. Ethnic distribution, it's all racial and ethnic group, especially Korean people are affected much. In one study was done containing 147 patients, and surprisingly, they showed 34.7% patient having the Kikuchi disease in the OPD coming with the fever and lymphadenopathy, and 22% patient were tuberculous adenitis, the common cause of cervical adenitis. In clinical picture, there will be lymphadenopathy in 100% of patients, fever in about 35% patient associated with rash.
We are running short of time.
Arthritis, fatigue, hepatosplenomegaly, lab test as we discussed, usually showing the leukopenia, LDS may be mildly elevated. Serology study, we can rule out because Kikuchi disease is almost sometimes associated with connective tissue disorder, so we can go for ANA, rheumatoid factor, SLE. Fine needle aspiration cytology, as in this patient, we tried for 3 times. So the correct is if we are getting multiple times negative FNAC and having the high suspicious of the disease, we should go for excision biopsy. And in excision biopsy, we go for immunohistochemistry, it will be 68 positive and MPO positive. If there is skin lesion and we go for biopsy, there will be CD3 positive. So CT showing perinodal infiltration, homogeneous nodal enhancement, and if there is necrosis in the lymphadenopathy, so we can differentiate from the tuberculosis by looking the necrotic area. Necrotic area means in tuberculosis also there will be necrosis, but the CT finding will be different. No definite treatment is there. We can start steroid. In some patients they are resistant with steroid, we can use the HCQ, or if patient is resistant with the HCQ and steroid also, we can go for IVIG. So outcome is self-limited. Disease recurrence rate is about 3 to 4%, and a positive antinuclear antibody test was associated with higher risk. If it's associated with connective tissue disorder, so there is a very high risk of recurrence. So Kikuchi association with other connective tissue disorder. In this one publication, it's showing the SLE was associated with the Kikuchi. This was another publication. In this also, the SLE along with relapsing polyarthritis along with Kikuchi, all the 3 diseases were together. So take home message is Kikuchi Fujimoto disease is rare, but important cause of persistent hyperpyrexia and lymphadenopathy. AFD is an important diagnosis to make as treatment is conservative. Lymph node biopsy is important in the lymphadenopathy where there is a diagnostic uncertainty. Steroids are very effective in relieving symptoms and reducing fever. When clinical picture suggests a diagnosis of AFD, a family history should also be sought to rule out any lymphoma. Thank you.
This was really very interesting and concise presentation of yours. Good way.
Thank you, thank you. It's a prelude bilateral to other physicians. This is the photo of moment of the CME. We have two illustrious personalities from illustrious institutions, AIMS and PJ Chandigarh in one frame. Thank you. Dr. Jyoti Chillar. She is HOD Pathology at DCH Hisar. Dr. Ishita, she is Associate Professor, Department of Medicine at Medical College Agrawal. Apologies for the earlier misquote of her designation, Dr. Ishita. Dr. M.L. Kamra. He is a practicing surgeon at DCH Hisar, Dr. M.L. Kamra. Dr. Azad Singh. He is a pulmonologist and critical care expert at Chudamani Hospital. Thank you, Dr. Amit Mehta. Please